As you were kind of navigating your directing, DPing, have you ever considered working for a production company, or was freelance kind of just like, that is going to be the direction I go to?
Yeah, I think I hadn't really even considered it because I think I just got an education very early on that, like, right out of college, I started interning on set. And so,
Hmm.
just with talking to the community and talking to people on set, everyone was freelance, and that was like the way they
Yeah.
did it. Every now and then you'd meet a unicorn that actually worked for a production company. And I'd be like, how do you get that job? And they're like, you can't, I have it. We only give one position out. So yeah, I think I would say that it was probably a blessing that I kind of never really had that security. So that
Mm.
when you are in these slow times, especially last year with the strike, right? Like, how to weather them. You know that, like, hey, this is temporary. It's not you. You don't smell. Like, they'll call you again. It's like it's easy to have these thoughts, right? Like, you get imposter
Mm.
syndrome. You're seeing other people work. Especially with social media, you're seeing people like post some amazing stuff, and you're like, well, they're working. Why am I not working? So I think, like, basically, to like having that always being freelance really set me up for success to, like, navigate the feast and
Mm.
famine situation that our industry
Right.
is.
Mm. You came up, I think you said, was it 10 years ago or something like that? And I'm assuming this is kind of prior to the whole Instagram craze. And I'm curious from your perspective, have you noticed a difference, I guess, within yourself of the slow times when Instagram wasn't a thing versus when Instagram is a thing? Did you notice like a mental shift within yourself that, like, when I'm slow and I see all these people posting and all this, maybe I compare myself more compared to maybe 10 years ago or so when Instagram wasn't a thing?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and I probably haven't reflected on it enough. But I do think, with anything, there's good things and bad things about social media. I
Right.
think that I don't think I would be as productive as I am without it. I think that it
Mm.
really charges me up. It gets me motivated. It really inspires me. It connects people like us together, so that we don't feel so isolated, and we can kind of have these
Yeah.
conversations and talk about, social media and why sometimes it's hard. Uh, but yeah, I guess that's just kind of the way it all works, right? It starts to shift the industry, right? So, like, and you have to shift with it. And so I feel like I didn't want to bring it here already, but, like, AI is happening right now. So, like,
Mm. Yeah, there it is. You
yeah,
brought it up.
yeah, I'm sorry, the buzzword. Yeah, so now I think, like, now we're all having conversations about, like, how do we maintain our workflows? How do we work with it?
Mm.
How do, some people just want nothing to do with it. And that's enough, like, that was Instagram 10 years ago, right? Or 15 years ago. I don't even remember how long it was, but
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I guess when video was, like, introduced on Instagram, that was like the big
Yeah, the
shift for
huge thing.
DPs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think, like, you just kind of adapt with it and you see how it works. And
Mm.
again, that's kind of why I love guys like you and Danny and, like, the younger crowd that comes up, because you guys find a way to innovate, and you show
Mm.
us older guys, like, oh, well, this is how we're going to use it. And then it kind of unlocks, like, oh, okay, so, like, this is how you do it. Danny will tell you, I will text him all the time, like, should I do a reel or a story, or is this a grid post? Just, like, what gets the most engagement, or what will, he helps me with my
Right.
compressions of, like, how much do you
Mhm.
compress the video before you put it on Instagram, because Instagram doesn't do a good job of that. Anyways,
Of course.
I think, to answer the question, it's like, you just shift, you gotta, like,
Mm.
you gotta move with it.
Right.
But
Mm. Yeah, I also wonder something about Instagram too, is like, I came up obviously in the Instagram era and social media where everyone is sharing their work. And when I became a DP, it was full-fledged Instagram at this point. Like, everyone was posting all that stuff. I wonder how much people's work is influenced by, how what they see on Instagram and what they see other people post compared to prior. Like, did you feel that there was maybe more unique voices or unique styles prior to social media, or do you think there's more unique voices now? I wonder if I'm phrasing that question properly, but yeah, it's kind of what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think probably a little bit of both, right? Like nothing's really black and white, but I think what happens is social media probably has created innovation. And so
Mm,
with any, I think what happens is every like couple months we'll get like a really incredible, commercial or a really cool music video. And then shortly after that, there's like, a couple hundred that look just like it and that feels
yeah,
similar. And, you can kind of follow the trail back to that original one, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Like I think that it like, yeah, ultimately, I think when people are just, especially if it's a passion project, if people are just out there doing
mm,
it, I think it's good. I think it's really great. And sometimes you have to like look at someone else's work and make your own version of it to find your own voice. And then you go, yeah. And then you look back on it, in a few years and you're like, yeah, that wasn't really my thing, but like I tried it, you know?
right, yeah,
Um, But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but I think it's like
no,
it's
for
it's a
sure.
little chicken egg, right? Like you kind of
Mm,
like I will say like as a director, and the amount of treatments I have to do, I thank the Lord Almighty for Instagram and Frame Set and Shot
mm,
Deck and all these incredible databases where you can find other people's work, because I don't know how else you would articulate to clients and
right,
agencies like, here's what we want to do. Like, I mean, now you can start to use AI, which is like another
yep,
tool to show exactly how you'd like to do it. But I still think like these databases and Instagram, like this is still the best because these are like human made. This is possible. This is what,
yeah,
people can do. And like, hey, if you really like this thing, like we could hire this DP to help us make it, or like this production
mm,
designer did this by herself. Like, why don't we bring her on? So
amazing,
I think in that way, like, I think that can unlock new ideas and still hopefully help
right.
innovate.